Ladies and gentlemen, and mostly ladies, because that's who my audience is. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most important parts of your emotional well being, your relationships. Is it the most important thing? It is certainly up there. You've heard it said that you're only as happy as the state of your relationship. I have seen that to be true over and over again in my own life and with the parents that I coach. You could have a picture perfect life. You could have every box checked for why you should be happy. But if there is a lack of harmony in your relationships, if there's disconnect, if there's misunderstanding, there's pain, rejection, resentment in your relationship, you're going to feel off. And so, what I want to be able to do today is talk to you about 3 relationships in your life. There are lots of relationships that come up in our coaching: in laws, parents, siblings, coworkers. We're not going to be covering any of those today. If you would like to talk about those, will you tell me in the comments and we can make another video about those dynamics? But today, I want to talk to you about your relationship with your partner. This could be your spouse, your person, your baby daddy, baby mama, your closest person, okay? Then I would like to talk to you about your relationship with your children. And lastly, I'd like to talk to you about your relationship with your friend. For those of you who are new, my name is Jessica. It's so great to meet you. I am a community leader for moms. I own a small business called Very Good Mothers Club. We've been serving moms online and in person here in Los Angeles for the last 5 years, I think. I have 3 kids of my own. I am married, been married to Sean for almost 16 years. Our anniversary. Ooh, our anniversary is in like a week or two. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that'll be 16 years. I got to make note of that. Yeah, I'm not an expert on relationships. I guess what I mean is I'm not perfect. I sometimes feel like when I'm going to give guidance to people, I don't want you to think that I have this all figured out. It's actually way easier to tell somebody else what to do than to implement it yourself. I'm sure you feel this. I'm sure that you go through your own kind of swirly, complicated emotions about something. But then if your friend goes through the same thing, you're like, oh, it's just simple. You just do this, that, and consider this. And also, you're amazing and everything will be fine. But then when it's your own life, it's way more tricky. So I just want to say that from the front end. I'm not talking as somebody who's, I don't know what it's like to struggle, but if I did struggle, here's what I would do. No, I'm just right there with you. I like to think of myself as like, I don't know, not a coach professionally, I'm a coach, but more like a team captain. Like, I don't know if in school you ever played sports, but in sports, often the team designates one person who is a member of the team who's still playing, still struggling. Sometimes the team captain's not even the best player on the team, but they're just like a rep for the team. That's what I like to do for moms in general. Is I don't claim to be the best. I certainly am not the best, but I'm happy to rep us. I'm happy to encourage you guys and be a go-between from our experience and like the rest of the world. And my goal in doing this 8-week coaching series with you is to help you live a life that you really love and feel more in touch with yourself and in touch with your goals. All of this is coming out of me prepping for an 8-week coaching intensive that I'm going to be leading with my friend, Dr. Julie Fernandez, in June, which if you want to sign up for it, there are only 12 spots available. It's awesome. We've done it a few times now and it's so great. In prepping for that, I thought, what if I was able to make a video series for you guys that's free, pass some of these tools along to you who might need it, but also not want to take the time to do coaching or maybe don't have the resources right now to do that. I really want to be of service to you and I want this to be highly valuable. I have a pet peeve. When somebody wastes my time, it makes me feel crazy. Like when I used to be in school as a student some years ago, I just despised it when they gave me busy work. It's like, you really don't think I could keep myself busy? And I feel that a bit with the internet. I feel like there's this pressure to like make noise and just remind people I exist. And I'm anti that. So I only want to make a video if I really truly think it's going to be worth your time to ingest this content. And I am committed to doing that for the next 8 weeks, making videos that'll really help your life, I hope. Otherwise, it's a money back guarantee, which good news for you didn't pay anything. So I don't have to give you anything at the end of the 8 weeks other than, yeah, just thanks for being here. The Harvard study of adult development is the longest running study on human happiness that's ever been done. And what this study has found is that good relationships, not money, not status, not a really nice house, not a really thin, toned, tight figure, good relationships are the strongest predictors of a happy life. That's so important. I really am a rule follower by nature. I like to find out what the key to success is, and then I like to use that key. And I don't want to make a mistake, and I don't want to be embarrassed, and I want to be perfect. And I think if I can just do that and get it right, then all will be well. This study is really exciting to me because having good relationships, like anybody can do that. That if it was like, okay, money is the key to having a really good life. Well, crap, then we all better hustle our buns to go figure out how to accumulate as much of that stuff as possible. But the study found that good relationships is the strongest predictor of a happy life. That is something any of us can achieve. And that is something that we can teach our children from as early as they can start talking and relating. We can start teaching them how to have good relationships. That's so exciting. So let's talk about good relationships. First, we're going to talk about our relationship with our partner. I'm going to start with that one because I feel like it is perhaps the most influential relationship of our life in this season. This is the person that we're doing life alongside. This is the parent of the children that we made, probably. If it's not, oh, I love complicated relational dynamics. I come from a family that my parents divorced, and then my mom became a lesbian. And so I had two moms here, and then my dad remarried. So I had them over here. And then there was a split up here. So then they each got new partners. So then I got them. And then I've got some honorary, like surrogate parents that I adopted along the way. So there's a lot of complicated dynamics. And not everybody gets along. So, how do you navigate that and not cause anybody to feel hurt or left out or sad? This is something that I actually really care a lot about and have had some experience being the child of that family. If you ever want to talk one on one, we would have such a good time. So, just you know where to find me. I'll be right here with the lady. What are some common pain points that we see in our relationships with our partners? And I'm assuming that you are parents, and I'm assuming your kids are in the age range that mine are. My oldest is almost 10. So perhaps your kids are anywhere from 0 to 10. You might even not have your baby yet. Some of you found me and you're pregnant. Perfect. So we've talked about this before on our channel, mine and yours, where the Gottman Institute found in their research that most couples report a dip in the quality of partnership or marriage after having children. That to me was so helpful to learn. And if you've been here before, I'm sorry that I'm repeating myself on this, but I just feel like we should tell more people that, because what can happen is you marry somebody or you fall in love with somebody and you have a baby with them and you're really crazy about them. We're making a baby and we're so in love and everything's going to be so awesome. And then the baby comes and you're like, this is amazing. Everything is awesome, until it kind of isn't anymore. You start to feel resentful, maybe like there's imbalance in the responsibilities and the different roles. Maybe there's assumed roles, like somebody starts doing this because that's what they saw growing up, but you don't really understand why they're doing that. You don't know that's what they're thinking about, and they don't know what you're thinking about. And it's tricky because pre having kids, you could try to talk through all of this, but a lot of it you don't even know is going to come up. Like, even as it's happening, sometimes Sean and I couldn't put a finger on what was wrong exactly. It would just be a lot of conversations where it felt like we weren't seeing eye to eye and we were hurting each other's feelings without meaning to. And part of it was we're really tired. Sleep deprivation is such a real thing and such a key component of feeling crappy. Just so you know, maybe you just need to hear that today and you could end the video now. If you're tired, everything feels worse. In fact, I think it's Alcoholic Anonymous, AA, that has that little acronym HALT: hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And it's kind of a joke between Sean and I when we first heard it because we use it all the time now. It's like, are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Are you any of those things? Because if you're any of those things, you are more likely to do something destructive. You're more likely to have a moment of like irritability, outburst, temptation towards something that's not going to help your life. So yeah, that's also some free advice. If you are feeling really bad and you're trying to get to the root of it, perhaps ask yourself, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Because if you're any of those things, try meeting that need and then see if suddenly your spouse looks more attractive to you. It could help. But yeah, I wrote down some common pain points that we feel with our person. Emotional distance, that's a real one. Miscommunication, feeling like you're being so clear and they're just not hearing you. And then you want to, I'm just kidding. I'm not ever an advocate of violence, but I am an advocate of having a sense of humor. So if humor isn't hitting, then just don't take that out of context. I would never hit my people. Okay, resentment. Yeah, resentment is a huge thing that comes up after we have babies. And I think part of it is that we don't want to complain. We don't want to be negative. We're not trying to nag. So then we're trying to act like everything's fine. And then they just keep doing the thing that makes us feel crazy. And so then, yeah, naturally we're becoming resentful. And then just unspoken needs. Sometimes we've got stuff going on inside of us and we don't even know how to identify it. And so then we've got this need going unmet, but we actually don't even know how to talk about it. And that's something I covered a bit in our last video. So this is video 3. I think I said that already, but if you're in this series and you really want to go through the program, this fake YouTube program that I'm making up as we speak, if you want to go through the full 8-week program with me, I do recommend going back in time and starting from video 1. Last week, we talked a bit about getting more in touch with what's going on inside of ourselves so that we can communicate it. Because if we can identify the need, then we can communicate the need, then we are much more likely to get our needs met. So those are the pain points that we see often in our relationships with our partners. What about our relationships with our children? If any of you have ever listened to our podcast, Very Good Enough, my co-host Lane did an amazing job articulating just how this little toddler who sometimes makes us feel crazy and frustrated and lost and confused, that is a little person, a whole person that we are having a relationship with. I remember when I was in my college age years, I never actually was in a university, but we took college classes through a nonprofit. In one of the training courses I did, they said, friends care about what friends care about. It has stuck with me, obviously, to this day, because I thought that was so key. If you want to know how to be a good friend, get curious about the things your friends are interested in. For my husband, he's a skateboarder. I don't naturally care too much about skateboarding. I actually didn't know much about skateboarding until I started dating him when I was 19 years old. I care a lot about skateboarding now because I care about this guy who cares about skateboarding, right? The same is true with our children. These are people we're in relationship with. This isn't another thing to do. This isn't a task on our list that we're checking off. This is a real person. Caring for that relationship and really nurturing it involves some of the same tools that you and I use with our spouse and our friends, starting with caring about what they care about. And sometimes it's tricky. Sometimes I care about things and I'm like, but I really, really, really don't care about that. But I care about them and I want to invest in the relationship and I want to build trust over time. And so being able to really, really care when my sweetie pie little guy is talking to me about Hot Wheels for the 1,000th minute of our first hour of the day. It's like, all right, I'm doing this because you care about this, buddy. And I care about you and you care about this. There is also going to be a very crazy making part of this point, which I should say. The reason why you feel so absolutely bothered by your toddler not listening to you, doing the exact opposite of what you said. This actually was happening with my 4-year-old yesterday, and I wanted to explode. It's like looking at you straight in the eye, listening to every word you said, and then just going and doing the exact opposite to like show their power, or hitting you, pinching you, biting you, screaming at you, like demanding that you hold them when you would rather be sitting down. All of that. The reason why you want to freak out when those things happen is because it's a relationship. And if they weren't a toddler, this is stuff that Lane in our podcast will do such a good job. So truly, if you are a toddler parent specifically and you're struggling right now, please go back and listen to some of our podcast episodes because they'll help you so much. And I can say that as a parent who recorded those episodes when my little ones were toddlers, and Lane just equipped me so much. So that's a really huge testimonial of Lane's work. I'll just link the podcast. I'll link them. I'll make your life easier. Reason why you feel like an absolute mad woman when these kids treat you weirdly, or when you're caring for a baby and they are breastfeeding around the clock and they're literally surviving because of your body and your sustaining them, and you're not getting any sleep and you're losing hair and you're feeling like your belly is squishy and you're hormonal and you're crying. I hope you're not pregnant. If you're pregnant and I'm scaring you, sweetie pie, I'm just like being so dramatic. You are going to do so good when you have your baby. But if you are having a little baby and you're relating to any of these things I'm describing, if in that moment you're feeling underappreciated by this little baby, which is so weird to even say because we both know it's the baby, but you already are realizing this is a relationship. And later on, your baby is going to be a little child who's going to learn how to say thank you and I love you and you're so pretty, mama, and I want to be with mama and I never want to leave mama and mama hold me again and again and again and again. And I want to sleep with mama. Like the relationship is going to start eventually being a real relationship where they can express gratitude and affection and all of the things that you're missing right now as you're caring for this little baby, feeling like you're pouring out so much of yourself. It's a relationship, but they can't do much to relate back. If ever that feels bad, I want you to know that that's not because you're a bad person or you're somehow ungrateful or you're not a good enough mom. That's you feeling the fact that this is a relationship that's out of balance. If your spouse is taking from you and then never expressing gratitude, never telling you how pretty you are, never telling you how much they appreciate you, then there would be a very fair, hard conversation probably to say, oh, this doesn't feel good to me. I don't want to keep doing this. But when it's a baby, you're just expected to keep doing it because that is the dynamic. That's how this little guy is going to survive. And it can feel sometimes like a thankless job. A lot of the women that I work with, this actually just happened to me today on a call. This mom that I was talking to, she's taking care of 3 kids all day long. While we're talking, kids are freaking out, messes are being made, dogs are barking. Her husband's at work, super long work days for her husband. So she's literally doing morning all the way to bedtime all by herself every day of the week. She says on the phone, it just makes me feel bad the way I get so irritable and grumpy. And what I had to tell her, and what I want to tell those of you who resonate, is like, you don't have to feel bad for something that makes perfect sense. Of course you feel grumpy sometimes. Of course you feel irritable. The amount of chaos that you're having to adapt to and tend to and be exerting patience and kindness and nurture and care and spontaneity and think on your feet. And now somebody's fighting and now somebody's sick and now some dog pooped somewhere. You're having to tend to all of this stuff. You absolutely don't need to feel guilty for having a very natural human response that goes, ooh, I'm not doing good. I don't like this. I want a break. I need help. That's all very natural. It would be like carrying a lot of stuff, like literally like a lot of weight, and then being like, oh, I just feel guilty because my arms are tired. And anyone watching is like, what? Baby cakes. Of course your arms are tired. You're carrying so much. Set something down. Like you're not doing anything wrong. That wasn't even in my notes. Talk about friendships. All right. Friendships are so important to me. I love friends. I love making friends. I have kind of a character flaw where I just cannot resist myself in public and I just want to talk to everybody that I see. In fact, the other night I was at dinner with some mom friends from Very Good Mothers Club, and there was a couple next to me and they had a little baby and I kept trying to make friends and they clearly didn't want to talk to anyone, and that was fine. And I totally understand, but I had to really hold it in. And then they started fighting with each other. And then I just wanted to talk to them so bad and be like, guys, it's going to get better. But they were fighting. They don't seem like YouTube people. I don't know what a YouTube person is, but I just feel like they didn't like my vibe in real life. So I doubt they would like my channel. They were fighting in third person, calling each other mommy and daddy. And the baby's right there. And it was like, well, mommy doesn't like when daddy does this. Well, daddy doesn't like that mommy does this. Well, mommy only did that because daddy did this. Well, the other day, mommy said this and daddy didn't seem to pay attention. And oh my gosh, it took everything in me not to be like, guys, can I help you? Can I hold the baby? Can we sort this out? I feel like you need to know that all of what you're feeling is really normal and it's going to get easier. But my friend, she was so great. And she was like, well, I said to her, like, don't you want to tell him it's going to get better? And she was like, oh, I don't know if it's going to get better for them. She's like, I've never heard anybody fight like that. I really hope it's going to get better for them. Anyway, all of that to say, I've got some crazy in me, and the crazy just really wants to befriend everybody, and especially if I can overhear an argument, I really wanna, like, jump in and help, and it just isn't a good thing. Friends. I love friends. I think one of the hardest parts of getting older for me been me realizing that you don't just make friends and then keep them forever. I really thought friends were like, I don't know, like a big flower bouquet, and your just bouquet keeps getting larger and larger and larger and larger, and all throughout life, you just have all of these wonderful friends. And I just don't think that's true. I think it's more like, I guess, what life is teaching me, and I don't know what your experience is, and I would love to hear from you, or if you feel like writing in the comments what your experience with friendship has been. But, like, when you're a young person, it's very easy to make friends because you're just in proximity with people. So, naturally, you're spending all this time together, whether in school or sports or dance or whatever it is that you guys did, and you're making friends with people around you. And then as you get older, the opportunity for that kind of proximity goes away. And then as you get even older, or you have more children, or you're working from home, or whatever it is, friendship then becomes something you really have to invest in. And then stage of life starts to take shape. And so you've got like somebody over here is having kids, and somebody over here is maybe single, and somebody over here is divorced, and somebody over here is newly married, and everybody's got their own thing going. And it takes more to invest in these friendships. And then taking it even further, belief systems change. So you've got people who maybe were raised a certain way, and then as they get older, they start to shift and believe certain things, and their worldviews change. Maybe politics, they start to have differing ideas on that. And so it can be really interesting to care so, so deeply for certain people and then get older, and and just with time you have less and less in common. And then also it's just hard to juggle everything, especially for those of you who have multiple children. But even if you just have one, life is so full. And so it can be really hard to invest in the people that you care so much about. And if you saw them, you would pick up with, like, as if no time had passed, and you think about them often. But life itself doesn't always present opportunities to connect in that way. I know for us, one thing that happened was we moved around. And so we were really close to certain people, and then you would move. And then these people who we love like crazy, now suddenly they're all the way over there and we're over here. And then when we lived here in LA for a time, we had like all these close, close friends who lived here too. And then I don't know, like sort of around the pandemic, I felt like a lot of people left LA. But that's kind of just been true over time. People are transient. And so you might have somebody in your life who's like your person, they're friends who feel like family, and then they move to a different city. And it can be a lot harder to keep up with them. It doesn't mean that you don't love them as much as you did before, but it's just there's something about proximity that makes relationships so much easier than when they are across the country or across the ocean, or even in a city like Los Angeles. I have super close friends that I love like crazy, but they live on the other side of the city, and it can take an hour to get to them. And when you have young children and they've got young kids, and maybe their kids don't like the car seat, it can just be a lot harder. It can feel the same as somebody who lives in a different state. All of that to say, we weren't designed to do life this isolated. Motherhood and modern motherhood in this world where a lot of people are working from home, or they're kind of a hybrid, like sometimes in the office, sometimes at home, it can be really isolating. Mosquito in here? Oh, no. I will get you. I really don't like mosquitoes. Now, maybe part of why I'm so passionate about encouraging you guys to make friends, and specifically make friends who are in your same stage of life, is because it can be really hard to know what's normal. And so when you have other friends who are in the same stage of life, and you go to them and you're like, I'm really embarrassed to say that, like, me and my husband aren't on the same page, or my kid is really making me feel crazy. They keep doing this thing and I don't know if it's normal. Then you have another friend who can just like validate you, and you can validate them. And also they can care for you in a way where if something isn't normal, like, oh, it sounds like actually you're being mistreated, or that's an unhealthy behavior, like you might need more help. You've got someone in your corner. It's not a judgmental, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys are going through that. It's more like, oh yeah, oof, life, tough. How can we help you? Here's who we know. We've got this great therapist. Would you like their number? You have a team doing life alongside you versus being in your house, trying to figure out what's real, maybe scrolling on Instagram and finding out that everybody out there has a perfect kitchen and a perfect home and a perfect body and a perfect face. And it's not real. It's only part of the picture, and it is a very incomplete part. And even that's why I want people to be able to join Very Good Mothers Club, our online community, because I didn't know when we first started doing Zoom calls how impactful they could be. I kind of felt like, oh, I don't really like Zoom. It's not as intimate. I would much rather be able to like touch your arm when you're talking or like give you a hug when you cry. But it's so cool. You can still connect really deeply and really vulnerably through a screen if you're willing to go into it like as your whole self and not somebody who's trying to curate a perfect image or put on a show. If you're really able to show up as your true self, whatever that looks like today, good or bad, and engage with the other moms who are there, it serves that same purpose of like normalizing what you're going through, validating your experience, and then giving you the dignity of validating other people, which is just so life giving and cool and helpful. So, anyway, that's my plug. You should join our Tuesday calls every Tuesday at noon California time. So, we've got what's that, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then it's evening in Europe. The moms who join in Europe, they're at the end of their day. Okay. There are a lot of small shifts we can make in our relationships that create a big change. So, one of them that I talk about often is assuming love. And the way that you would do that is instead of assuming the worst about the person, you're assuming the best of them. And then you're asking questions. You're going at this with curiosity. So, instead of being like, he's always late because he doesn't care about me, it would be more like, hey, could you help me understand why you're always late? Because what it feels like is you don't care about me and it hurts my feelings. So can we talk this through? Now, when something is off, instead of jumping right to, we have a huge issue, you're mistreating me, starting actually way back there going, what are you thinking when this is happening? Because I can tell you that what I'm thinking is that I worked really hard to make a nice meal for you. I've been caring for our little baby all day long and I'm really tired and my nipples hurt and I'm bleeding still. And I made you food and then you didn't come and it made me feel underappreciated. And also I'm really tired and kind of fragile. What do you feel? And then he can be like, oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot. I totally see your point. So I'm feeling really burnt out by work and my boss needed me to stay longer. And I felt awkward about leaving early when I am asking for paternity leave, whatever. I'm playing out a fake scenario to try and give you more words that can hopefully help you in your very real scenarios. Another thing is maybe just gentle check-in. Something like, hey, I noticed we've been missing each other lately. Could we talk? Or when you get home, what if we put down our phones and we just hung out with a nice drink for like 20 minutes and just checked in? It doesn't need to be anything long, but I just miss your company and I would love to hear how your life is going. Something like that, really small. This is honestly something Sean and I have to do pretty regularly because we live life together, but we're both juggling things and juggling the kids. And it's crazy how you can be next to each other, but not have a full on conversation because somebody's crying and somebody's fighting and somebody needs something. And then you've been together for days, but you literally have no idea what's going on in the other person's mind or friendships or work life because you haven't been able to really engage intentionally. So yeah, we've been trying to do a little bit more like, what if we have a coffee together? Okay, let's have a breakfast sandwich together. Let's take a few minutes to just chat and plan the week. And it really helps. Little moments of repair. We hear about this a lot more now than I think our parents ever did. But like when something goes wrong in our relationships, whether it's our partnership, our relationship with our kids, or even our friendship, being able to go to them quickly and without shame and just be like, hey, I'm sorry about how that happened. Especially with our children, it becomes a really good modeling opportunity to show them how to say sorry and it builds back trust. I've had plenty of moments. Oh my gosh. I just had one the other day. So I'm sort of embarrassed to tell you about, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Granted, my daughter's older, so I could repair it a lot more intentionally. But basically, we were already having a long day. 2/3 of the kids were sick. The nighttime sleep had been disrupted the night before. And then my oldest was having a really hard time falling asleep because she was excited for a field trip the next day. But I was so irritable. I also might have been hormonal. I never know when my period is now that I had cancer and then I had a partial hysterectomy. I still have like hormonal cycles, but I don't know exactly when it is because I don't have a period anymore. Anyway, not that that's an excuse, but that plays a role. Anyway, it was like almost 10 at night and Eloise is just chatting and she's been chatting the whole evening and she's she's like really resisting bedtime and I had already given her time to read and I tidy up her room and I was like trying to wind down. She comes out again and she's like, I can't sleep. And I snapped. I was like, stop talking to me. Don't talk to me. And she goes back in her room and I'm like, are you kidding? So then I go back in and thankfully this girl knows me and thankfully she and all of us really have a good relationship. And I was like, "I'm sorry. You can talk to me, of course." And she was laughing and she was like, I know what you mean." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't mean you can't talk to me, but I do mean you should stop talking and just rest your body and whatever." So I was able to do that, apologize for saying don't talk to me, and then like reiterated because I'm like really trying to backtrack. "You can always talk to me. If you ever have any need, you should always tell me, especially as you're getting older. I want to hear from you." I don't know. I feel like my parents did their very best, and there's no shame against previous generation. I don't feel like that's very helpful. But I will say, I don't think that was modeled for us, you and I. Maybe it was for you. You can let me know. But just generally speaking, I don't think that was as encouraged. Like now, the reason why I do that probably so much is because the world reminds me to do it. And we live in a time that's really trying to help us be mentally well, I think. At least my content. I pretty much only follow things that are like positive and happy. Otherwise, I can't deal. When you accidentally tell your child not to talk to you, for don't talk to me. Yeah, you might need to go back and be like, sorry, I was actually feeling really annoyed that the day's gone on so long and that I'm probably going to be up tonight because our children are sick. And you're still awake when you should have gone to sleep hours ago. I already started the video telling you I'm not the best mom. La-ti-da. What could it look like to be a little more intentional about our connection with other people? And the hard thing about me telling you this is I feel like I'm kind of preaching to the choir. Like if you are watching a video about relationships, my guess is you're already pretty good at this. You're already self-aware. You already value relationships. The type of person who goes online and watches content about a certain topic, I feel is probably somebody who is excited about the topic and is already better than the rest of us at it. But let's just say you're looking for small ways to connect with your loved ones and you need a refresher. One would be making eye contact. Sometimes with my little kids, when well, I mean, they're 4, 5, and 9 now, but when they were even littler, sometimes I would need to drop down to eye level and just have a few minutes to connect with them that way. A few minutes really is sometimes all you have. If you're trying to get a bunch of stuff done in the house and juggle a bunch of people's needs all at once, it's not realistic that you're going to spend your whole day crouching down and seeing them. But what did you say about the big rig? It's just not going to happen. But if you can give yourself some time to get down at their level, maybe even when you're giving them transitional directive, something that's like, all right, babe, now we're going to switch to snack time, it could be helpful to make sure you guys are seeing each other. And it's really special for them. These kids love you so much. You're such a good mom. You're seriously their dream. And so even to be able to have that connection moment, Lane reminded me, this is something that really affects me a lot. I was telling Lane about how my kids draw out bedtime, which I'm sure all of our kids draw out bedtime, right? Bedtime is the moment when they just remember that everything on their body hurts and they have a little scrape and they need this and they need that. Lane said, well, of course, because it feels so good to have someone really close to our bodies, looking us up and down and taking great care of us. There's nothing better than feeling that seen and that cared for. And that was such a cool way to process bedtime because, as you can already tell from my don't talk to me story, bedtime is not my finest hour. To frame bedtime in a way where it's like, these are my people, and this is their moment where they can have their mommy look them up and down and touch them gently and take care of them and tend to their little owies, even the make believe invisible ones that definitely aren't there, but they're making bedtime go longer. I thought that was really sweet. I don't know if you're a touchy person. My husband is very cuddly. I naturally don't think I'm that cuddly. But just, like, being intentional about touching my loved ones. Yeah, I'm not that cuddly, as you could tell, like, I don't even know how to touch a person. No. So, like, if you just need to touch your people, remind them that you love them, give a hug, give a little kissy. I saw a mom online who reminds her kids that she loves being their mom, and she'll just say it, "I love being your mom," and I adopted that practice because I thought it was so cool. It doesn't mean that you always love being a mom, and which is something I've talked to you about. Sometimes this role isn't something you would love, and that's okay. It's a very challenging role. You might also love it. I'm not saying you shouldn't love it. But if ever you're like, oh, wow, people promised me that I was going to love being a mom, and I don't know that I love it right now, that's okay. I bet it is true that you love being your child's mother. And for me, that's always been true, even in my hardest days. And so just reminding my loved ones that I love loving them has been really good for us. Let's wrap up this video because it is getting so long and you've got some relationships to tend to. You're not needy. You were wired for connection. This is a very innate part of being a person, is that we were created to be in community with others. We get very weird when we're alone. We really do. You probably know people who don't spend enough time with other people, and we get a little cuckoo. We need other people for self-esteem, being around other people to remind us who we really are. We need people to know what's normal and what's not. We need people to just help us out when things go wrong. We need people to invest in. We need to get out of our heads. When we are alone a lot, or when we're just with our nuclear family, we get kind of self-absorbed. We think that our world is the world, the only world. And there's actually a huge, beautiful world out there with other people with needs. And it can bring us a lot of purpose and meaning to be able to look outside of ourselves and go help other people. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm excited to see you next week. Okay, bye. I didn't wear mascara on my bottom because I didn't want to sweat it off on this one. Oh, I think I still sweat a little bit. I need new mascara, guys, but I haven't decided which one I'm going to get. Okay. Thanks for being here. Bye.